ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नमः। हरि ओम and salutations to all. Chapter Canto 3, Discourse 7 is what we have completed, and we saw Vidurji has asked many questions at the end of his 7th chapter, and he also said that this type of knowledge, when he asked about various varnas and manvantaras and many things about creation, he said this type of knowledge can be attained only at the feet of a guru. And he also said that by serving your holy feet, he told Maitreya Rishi, that by serving your holy feet, I will attain the devotion for the lotus feet of the Lord. Just give me 1 minute. some issue today, I don't know. It is not going live. So if anybody you know attends it on YouTube or Facebook anywhere, you can inform them to join in this meeting. So at the end of the 7th chapter, like Maitreya Rishi answered Vidurji's earlier questions, and so Vidurji asked him a series of other questions and also told him that only through the grace of a guru these answers can be known, and that by serving him he would develop devotion to the lotus feet of the Lord. And so there ended the 7th chapter. Now the 8th chapter, 8th discourse in this 3rd canto, Maitreya Rishi praises Vidurji, and he says that Satsevaniyo Batapuru Amsho Yallo Kapalo Bhagavat Pradhanaha Babhuvitheha Jita Kirtimalam Pade Pade Nutana Yasya Bhikshnam. So he says that the whole Puru race has become very adorable because you are born in this Puru race. You are the very incarnate of Dharmaraj himself, and even the noblemen, Satsevaniyo, they as though revere, worship this Puru Amsha because you are born in it. And you are not only Lord Yama in another form, but you are also very devoted to the Supreme Lord. And every step, every moment, the garland of the Lord's glories is given more and more fragrance by you, meaning by your questions. Because all those questions that he asked, they are going to bring about the devotion in the hearts of people when they know that all this came from the Lord. So though the question may be about how creation happened, what is Varna Vyavastha, what are the ashramas, all those questions that we saw, the source of it all is the Lord. So by asking those questions, he has as though made the garland of the Lord's glories more and more fresh and charming. Then he says that Soham drinam kshulla sukhaya dukkham mahadgatanam viramaya tasya pravartaye bhagavatam puranam yadaha sakshat bhagavan rishibhyaha. So he says to relieve the people who are fallen into distress. Why they are fallen into this distress? Because one is searching for that supreme happiness through the sense pleasures, not in the real source. And so he says that to remove their sorrow and distress, now I am going to start the Bhagavatam. So that knowledge which Krishna Bhagavan told Maitreya Rishi to give Vidurji. Also this knowledge Maitreya Rishi heard from Bhagavan, and you will see the early next paragraphs which will come. He has also got this knowledge through the parampara of the Guru Shishya. So he got from a Rishi also, Maitreya Rishi got it from his Guru as well as he got it from the Lord. And so he says that I will tell you. Pravartaye Bhagavatam Puranam Yadaha Sakshat Bhagavan Rishibhya. And which Bhagavan here means Sankarshan Devata, meaning Sheshnag. Sankarshan Devata, Sankarshan Bhagavan gave this to Sanat Kumars, and that whole parampara you will see now. That knowledge, how he got. Now, why does he suddenly bring all this? Because Vidurji had earlier said that we cannot get this knowledge until there is a guru. And whenever we share this knowledge, we must always remember the guru parampara. So Maitreya Rishi, before he tells answers for those questions, he recollects his guru parampara also. And that's why he suddenly brings this. Pravartaye Bhagavatam Puranam Yadaha Bhagwan Sakshat Bhagavan Rishibhya. Now Bhagavan here is Sankarshan Bhagavan, Rishibhya here is Sanat Kumar. Sanat Kumar gave this to Naradji, that in the beginning we saw in the Bhagavat Mahatmya. And Jnana and Vairagya were strengthened. Sanat Kumar are mind ball children of Brahmaji. Brahmaji had got this knowledge from Mahavishnu, Bhagavan Narayana himself. So there is a big parampara. So here you will see that parampara now coming. So these Sanat Kumars, they had gone through the route of Gangaji to Patal, where Sankarshan Bhagavan is there. Now suddenly we may think, why is Sankarshan Bhagavan in Patal? He is supposed to be in Vaikuntha, and on him Bhagavan is resting. See, Sankarshan Bhagavan is also considered as Bhagavan. Of course, not the supreme Mahavishnu or Narayana himself, but all are born from the divine. Like how we worship Brahmaji, like that we worship Sankarshan Bhagavan also. And in fact, we worship everything of Bhagavan. So the Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, all that also we worship. Because every aspect of the Lord is Chaitanya Swarup only. They are not Jadavastu. So Sankarshan Bhagavan is supposed to be the Sheshnag, not only on whom Bhagavan is resting in Vaikunt, but it is said that he is the one who is upholding this earth. There are 8 elephants which support the earth. And then there is Sankarshan Bhagavan who is supporting all of these. So that's why they say he is in Patal. And Gangaji flows in all the 3 places. Akasha Ganga, then Bhagirath Prayatna happened, and then Gangaji came onto the earth, and through the earth, because of that, finally it went to Patal also. So following the path of Gangaji, the Sanat Kumars have reached Patal Lok, where Sankarshan Bhagavan is there. And so when they went there, the Sanat Kumars, they went to Sankarshan Bhagavan to know about the Lord of Sankarshan Bhagavan. That's why it says the Lord who is even higher than Sankarshan, eager to know about the truth of that Lord. They went to Sankarshan Bhagavan. So these are all different ways each person gets the chance to speak the glory of the Lord. You may say, why did they have to come to him? They could have gone directly to Bhagavan himself. So different people become bhakta as their own sadhana. And if you remember earlier canto, it came to purify the speech. When we sing the glory of the Lord, then the speech gets purified. Our speech gets purified. And ultimately, we know that Bhagavan is only the Guru. There is nobody else who is the Guru. So the Lord only speaking through all of them. And that's how the speech is getting purified. So the Sanat Kumars, they have gone to Sankarshan Bhagavan. And Sankarshan Bhagavan was at that time mentally doing worship of the Supreme Lord. The name given here is Lord Vasudeva. And he came to realize that now Sanat Kumars have come. So he was in that mental state of worshipping the Lord, and he felt the presence of the Sanat Kumars. And so for their joy, what did he do? He partially opened the eye. That half opening of the eye is called Shambhavi Mudra. So through that, there is both awareness of the divine as well as the world together. One is not in sleep, one is not completely lost in the world outside, that connected to the self within and perceiving the world outside. That is the symbolism. So he opened his half eyes. The Sanat Kumar, they bowed down to him, and the expression given here is very beautiful. This what is said here is, the sages reverentially touched their matted locks, drenched by the waters of the heavenly river Ganga. The lotus that served as a support for his feet, they touched the lotus of Sankarshan Bhagavan, which is on which his feet are placed, and these and which the daughters of the serpent chiefs lovingly worship through various offerings with a longing to obtain a suitable match. Sankarshan Bhagavan is the king of all the snakes, and so many snake chiefs are there. Their daughters, they are worshipping his lotus feet so that they find a suitable match. Just think, even the snakes, Nag Kanyas also are worshipping Sankarshan Bhagavan to get a suitable match. So then, the Sanat Kumars, they praise him, they extol him, and Sankarshan Bhagavan is described here as he has 1,000 heads. Sheshanag, he has 1,000 hoods, 1,000 heads, and each of them has one mani. So his form is very resplendent and bright because there is money in each of them. Now it is said here, now comes the Guru Parampara. 7, 8, and 9. These tell about the Guru Parampara. Proktam Kilaitad Bhagavattamena Nivritti Dharma Bhiratayatena Sanat Kumaraya Sachaha Prishtaha Sankhyayananga Sankhyayanayanga Dhritavrataya Sankhyayanah Paramahamsya Mukhyo Vivakshamaano Bhagavadvibhutihi Jagadasosmadguraven Vitaya Parasharayath Brihaspatishcha Provacha Mahyam Sadayalurukto Muni Pulastyena Purana Madhyam Soham Tavaitat Kathayami Vatsa Shraddhalave Nityam Anuvrataya. This is the whole parampara. So this Sankarshan Bhagavan taught this Bhagavatam to Sanat Kumars. Who are they? They are mind-born sons of Brahmaji. Brahmaji actually created them, it comes ahead, for taking ahead the creation. But they are full of vairagya. They don't want to go ahead with this creation at all. They start reveling in thinking about the Lord. So they are full of, they follow the path of renunciation. Nivritti dharma bhirataya tena. Earlier, if you know, if you remember in the 7th chapter it came, 7th discourse it came, who will realize the Lord? Those who follow Nivritti dharma. Meaning those who drop attachment, they will follow. They will realize. So he gave this knowledge to Sanat Kumars. They are people who are very highly detached, who are renunciates, and who gave it to Sankhya Rishi. And this Rishi had taken a vow of Brahmacharya. Sankhya Rishi, I have to find more about him. Don't know right now what was his glory. So the Sankhya Rishi gave this knowledge to Parashar Rishi. Parashar Rishi is the father of Vedavyasi. Parashar Rishi gave it to Brihaspati, And because of Pulastya Rishi's Agraha, Parashar Rishi gave this knowledge also to Maitreya Rishi. So this is the Guru Parampara. How Maitreya Rishi got this knowledge? He got from Parashar Rishi. And then he also heard from Bhagavan. Now, one thing we should remember, when they say they spoke about Bhagavatam, they would not have spoken about Bhagavatam in this form as these shlokas. So this is compiled by Vedavyas Rishi. Bhagavad Dharma, which is the glory of Bhagavan, glory of surrender to the Lord, the state of oneness with the Lord, various bhakti sadhanas, that is called Bhagavad Dharma. Those things would have been spoken. The essence of Bhagavatam is this. That would have been spoken. So, now this is the Guru Parampara. And he says, now I am proceeding to teach that to you. Soham Tavaitat Kathayami Vatsa. So he is addressing Vidurji as Vatsa. Oh dear child, that knowledge which I got from my gurus and which has come down traditionally from the Guru Parampara, that knowledge I am giving you. Why? Shraddha lave nityam anuvrataya, because you are full of faith and devoted in seva. Now this, we should always remember that every teacher, whoever teaches this knowledge, will always say it is the grace of the Gurus and the Guru Parampara through which it has come. It is not my knowledge. I am not great because I can give this knowledge, nor is it any, oratory or any such power. This is the divine knowledge. Bhagavan alone is the Guru, and this has come through the Guru Parampara, and I am just passing on. I am like a instrument, a messenger of the Lord or the Guru Parampara. So traditionally, this knowledge, so at the altar of the Guru, the person has surrendered, and this knowledge is given. Now, this whole process we have seen earlier also. So this I am going to go through quickly. We will not go verse by verse. So it is said, see, this had come earlier that universe was in a state of dissolution, and when this universe, there was nobody, there was only Advaita. Eko Sadeva Saumya Idam Agra Asit, the Upanishad says, there was only one Sat. Or another one says, Ekoham Bahusyama, I am one, now let me become many. So at the end of one of the pralay, it is said that when Brahmaji's one day got over, the whole Srishti came back into Pralaya Avastha. Means all the jivas, they go back into the Supreme. They become unmanifest, like how in deep sleep it happens to us. So there was only the Lord who was there, who was resting on the Anantanag, that is Sankarshan Bhagavan, and enjoying his internal potency with his eyes half closed. He was resting. So this Lord, in whom all of them are there, was resting like this for 1,000 yuga cycles, which is one night of Brahmaji. One day of Brahmaji is 1,000 cycles of the Chatur Yuga. Same way, one night. So one night of Brahmaji. So for that much time, Mahavishnu was as it is. See, just like we go into the state of deep sleep, then this small eye of ours unmanifest. Brahmaji, when we say he goes to sleep, Brahmaji also becomes unmanifest as a jiva. Where do they go? In the Lord. So all the jivas, including Brahmaji, everybody is back into the Lord. And Bhagwan is like that for 1,000 uh, Chaturyugas. That is one night of Brahmaji. Now what happens? When that, so Bhagwan is there, Sheshnag is there, and his Maya in terms of time is there. Because time, she has to be maintained. This is, in this context, time is Lakshmi Devi. So when we say that Lakshmi Devi is pressing the feet of Bhagwan Vishnu in the Milky Ocean, and Bhagwan is resting, that Lakshmi Devi is symbolic of time here. She keeps a track of time because when 1,000 Chaturyugas get over, then the creation has to again manifest. So Bhagwan was there, the time is there, Kala Shakti it is called. She is the power of time. Now when the right time, 1,000 years get over, then that potential will start manifesting in the Lord so that creation can come forth once again. And so it is said that at the end of those 1,000 years, the Lord's glance made this Sukshma Srishti and all these jivas, etc. It made them arise again for the Srishti to happen. Now suddenly Srishti cannot happen immediately. So what we saw earlier, that happens again. See, the process that happened right in the beginning, that process keeps happening many times. Where from the Nabhi of Mahavishnu, this lotus arises, and on this lotus is Brahmaji who is sitting. That process which happened right in the beginning, that process continuously keeps happening. Whenever Brahmaji gets created, he goes through his day, and then for his night, the pralay happens. Again, next day he wakes up, again from the Nabhi, he comes up. That process, like every night it happens to us. Our ego gets into deep sleep, again we get up, and again the whole Srishti starts for us. Again we go to sleep, same thing. So, from the Nabhi of Bhagwan, this Padma Kosha, this lotus came out. And it is said here that on this lotus, Brahmaji was sitting there. In this 15th shloka, it said that the Lord entered that lotus first. And that lotus was enlivened with the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And then Brahmaji was born. Now, Brahmaji is called Swayambhuvam because there is no physical cause like that for him. Bhagwan is the intelligent, efficient cause, and Bhagwan is the source of everything, there is no doubt. But as a manifest form, there is no earlier manifest form than Brahmaji. So he is called Swayambhuvam. Now Brahmaji is sitting on that lotus. Now he is looking in four directions. There is nothing, there is just waters. So when he looked in four directions, he got four heads. He obtained four heads. In some Puranas, it comes that Brahmaji had 5 heads and Shivji cut off 1 head of his. Different Puranas have some of these variations. Finally, Brahmaji has 4 heads only. Whether it was while the time, he must have looked up also. So 5th head also must have been there. Right now here in Bhagavatam, it is said 4 heads. So we take it 4 heads. So he saw in 4 directions and there was only water, but each direction he looked, he got 1 head. So 4 heads he had. Now Brahmaji was puzzled. He could not understand himself. He could not understand the creation. And what is this lotus? So what did Brahmaji do? He started searching. Now this 18 to 22 that comes. Kaeshayo sa vaha, Kaeshayo sa vaha, mabja prishtha, etat kuto vabja mananya, dapsu, asti hyadhan, asti hyadhastadiha, kinchanaitad, adhishtitam yatra satanubhavyam. So Brahmaji started thinking about himself and he says, who am I seated on the pericap of this lotus? From and whence can this lotus be? Standing on these waters all alone without any support. Now he is not seeing Nabhi of Mahavishnu. Please remember, that's why I said he's called Swayambhuvam because there's no physical form. Bhagwan is in his Ananta Rupa. He is not in one physical form lying there, which Brahmaji can see. So he suddenly seeing there's water, there is one lotus, and I am sitting on that lotus. So he says it can be therefore easily understood by any sane person that there must be something underneath it on which this stands supported. So this Brahmaji, he wants to know from where he came, who is he, what is the source of this lotus, what is this water all about. Now you may say how this is happening. 1,000 years, so he was, his lifespan is 100 years, and then in one day of his 1,000 Chatur Yugas happen. Then every jiva goes into unmanifest for 1,000 Chatur Yugas. Again they manifest. So why suddenly he is having this identity crisis? He should know that he is Brahmaji. Maybe first time he was created, he could have a confusion. Now why is he having? See, please remember every day, every time we also have this issue, actually. But we don't know because we come from deep sleep into dream, into waking, and slowly that whole manifestation happens. But is it also not true that sometimes when we suddenly come out of this sleep, some noise happened, something happened, or some terrible dream, anything. We wonder where are we, who are we, what is this place, happens or not. So from the state of this deep sleep, that deep sleep, I'm talking about individual jiva right now as an example. So consciousness identified with the deep sleeper is called prajna. Prajna means who doesn't know. Rakarshena ajna, who doesn't know anything. Because in that deep sleep there is veiling, tamoguna. So from that deep sleep, when one comes into dream, then that is called Taijasa. Then comes Vishwa. Even in that Vishwa, one doesn't remember everything the moment one wakes up. Slowly everything starts unfolding step by step. So in the same way it will be here. So Brahmaji started wondering, and what did he do? He went inside that lotus stalk to find out the source. He says he dived into the water through the pores in the stalk of that lotus. But how much ever he struggled to find the base of the lotus stalk, he failed to get at it, even though he approached it. So while he thus looked about for his own source in that impenetrable darkness, there elapsed a very long time, and that time inspires terror in the heart of living creatures and cuts short the allotted span of life every moment. Now, here, this time is called Sudarshan, the chakra of the Lord, Sudarshan chakra. Lakshmi ji was also time earlier, which kept a track of that 1,000 Chatur Yugas. Then Sudarshan, because Brahmaji also has a fixed lifespan, and every minute of his lifespan also is ending. Sudarshana is that. One meaning of Sudarshan is that. Otherwise, Sudarshan means the divine vision of oneness. But as a chakra, it is a Kala chakra. So Sudarshan cuts our life. Moment by moment, Sudarshan is cutting our life. We are moving towards the end as a body. Same way for Brahmaji. So that Brahmaji was searching what is the source of this lotus. He couldn't find, and he gave up the search. He said, I can't find it outside. So what did he do? He came back to his resting place, means on the lotus. He dived into the stalk of the lotus to find the source. Couldn't find. Tried for a long time. Couldn't find anything. Then came back and closed his eyes and he started meditating on Bhagavan. So it is said that at last he gave up the search without achieving the object of his desire, and returning to his resting place, the deity gradually controlled his breath, withdrew the mind from everything else, and sat down in samadhi, deep meditation on the Lord. This way, for 100 years, the lifespan of a human being, 100 years, then he meditated for 100 years, which is a moment for him. For us, it is 100 years. For him, it is just a moment or maybe less than a moment also. He quietened his mind, withdrew the mind from all the externalities, focused on the breath, and went beyond thought. What happened to him? He had the light of knowledge dawn on him, and he saw revealed in his heart of its own accord that which he had failed to perceive before. Bhagwan's darshan he had. Now, this meaning here of this Brahmaji searching is this, that Bhagwan cannot be found outside. Externally, though, he cannot be found. 100%. Even though we may say all this is divine, the vision that all this is divine comes to us only when we realize that Supreme in our heart. Then everything becomes divine. Why? Because as long as we have body identification, the world also will appear real as a form. Though it is the truth alone appearing, our vision is not on the truth. Our vision is on the Nama and Rupa, name and form. And so here it is that Brahmaji also, he couldn't find it outside. And he sat quietly, controlled the breath, focus, withdraw on his mind. Now some people say Brahmaji went up and down the stalk. So Akhandanandji gave this very nice explanation for it. He says that some interpretations are there for this, that if you want to know the source of the Lord, then trace the speech. Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari and Para. Sorry, Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari. These are 4 stages of speech. Para is the subtlest, the unmanifest, like the seed. Pashyanti is when it manifests as a sankalpa or just as a impression. So para pashyanti. Madhyama is when the words start forming in the mind. And Vaikhari is when one speaks using the organ of speech. So that's why the Shanti mantra in the Upanishad says, Vang me manasi pratishtita, mano me vachi pratishtita. May my speech abide in the mind and may my mind abide in the speech. These two should be connected. They are actually connected. But many times what happens is we disconnect. What we think we don't speak. What we speak we don't keep up that word. So the prayer is we should integrate both. Integrate all the four actually. But they are actually one only. In grosser manifestations they are. From unmanifest to a desire to proper thoughts forming words to actual speech. Now, what is the source of that unmanifest? That is the Lord. So they say if you go deep into the source of the speech, from words to thoughts to desire to unmanifest, beyond that is the Lord. So going down is symbolic of that uh, investigation, or that is one path. Then he came up. So that some commentators say is Mooladhar, Swadhisthana, Manipur, Anahata, Vishuddhi, Ajna, Sahasrara. 7 chakras. Kundalini has to go up. Then through Sahasrara one will realize. Now whether it is going up or going down, the point here is it is still an internal search only. This up and down, one cannot imagine it physically. The physical going up and down will not lead to this state. Because in Sahasrara also one has to transcend. The 6 chakras, when one transcends and Sahasrara one comes, then one realizes that Kundalini merges. So Shiva is here and that Shakti is the Kundalini Shakti, and Shiva and Shakti merge in Sahasrara. So one transcends physicality. Even when one goes into this 4 states of speech, there also one transcends physicality. So though it may be said up and down physically also is not possible, subtle body also it is not possible. One has to transcend both. Neti neti, when it is said, gross and subtle both are to be negated, then Atma is realized. So that is the Vedantic meaning here. That Brahmaji finally he said, this is not going to work. I have to transcend this small I. So he sat down, he withdrew, and then he saw. He had the darshan of that Lord. One more point from Bhakti standpoint is unless Bhagavad Kripa does not happen, Bhagavad darshan will not happen. So no matter how much we may search in the world outside or even in the spiritual realm, unless Bhagavad Kripa is not there, one will not realize. So that is from Bhakti standpoint to say that surrender is the supreme. Surrender to Bhagavan. And Bhagavan will show the way and Bhagavan will reveal himself. So now when he saw, he had the darshan of the Lord. Now what is the darshan that he had? So he saw that Bhagavan is lying on this bed or lying on the waters. He has a huge white body. No, Sheshanag has a huge white body on which the Lord is lying. We depict Sheshanag as black in color in paintings and all, because snake, the moment we think of snake, we always think of black. Some dark color, black color, brown color, whatever. Here what is said, here it is said, uh, it is white in color. Twenty-third shloka, if you see. Mrinala Gaura Yata, Gaura it is said, you see. Mrinala Gaura Yata Shesha Bhoga Paryanka Ekam Purusham Shayanam. फणातपत्रायुतमूर्धरत्न द्युतिर्द्युभिर्हतध्वान्त युगान्ततो ये. The 23rd one. White as a lotus fiber, you see. And he has 10,000 hoods, which are so many umbrellas for the Lord, and gems set on his crowns, dispelled by their brilliance in the darkness all around. White, meaning the mind, which is Shuddha Sattva, can realize Bhagavan. And all those 1,000 hoods are turned inside actually. Gurudev used to say that is the mind which has turned introverted. The desires are no more extroverted. All the desires they have turned introverted towards the Lord, and that mind is pure Sattva Guna, only wants to realize the Lord. That person will come to know the Supreme. So this is the imagery of Bhagwan. Now we may say, for painting sake, people do all the contrast and everything because Milky Ocean, then Sheshanag also is white, and then on that Bhagwan is sleeping. How one can't depict so clearly. So they may put black color and white ocean, and then Lakshmi Devi is in red color, and Vishnu Bhagwan blue color, all that. The vision that the great mystics have had in that they have said, like Shivji we paint blue color, but Shivji is Karpura Gauram, he is white in color. So now he was lying. The darshan that the Brahmaji had is this, that on this white color body of the Sheshanag, Vishnu Bhagwan is lying, and there uh, the Lord's body, the 24th shloka says that the luster of the Lord's body is like the coral mountain. It mocks the beauty of the coral mountain. The yellow garments that he wears, Pitambara, is like the evening sky. The helmet or the crown, which has so many jewels, is like the golden summit of the mountains. And the limbs with ornaments, Tulsi and the Vanamala, they are like mountains with waterfalls and herbs, etc. So self-illuminated, well-ornamented, unlimited in length and breadth, occupied the three planetary systems, Bhur, Bhuva, Suvaha. Now this darshan that Brahmaji had, it is said that Bhagwan with lot of mercy, who grants the desires of all the beings, blessed Brahmaji with pure bhakti. And the Lord said, this 26 and 27 are very beautiful verses, where he says that he graciously showed his wish-yielding lotus feet to the devotees that worshipped him through faultless processes for the gratification of their own desire. Lotus feet whose petals in the shape of toes could be distinctly seen through the rays of their moon-like nails. He greeted his worshippers with his countenance, which was endowed with a beautiful nose and graceful eyebrows, and lit up with a smile that was enough to relieve the agony of the whole world, and which was graced with brilliant earrings and reflected the ruddy luster of his lips that resembled a ripe timber fruit. So the whole divine form of the Lord is described in many of these verses that follow, and that Bhagwan is having, uh, so it is said that earlier it was said his form occupies three worlds. Now this three expands into 14. This is in the shape of 14 worlds. He is like the sandal tree, the king of the trees. And on his arms are most precious armlets, best of gems, uh, with its roots unknown, meaning he alone is the source of all these. And with the hoods of Shesha coiled about his trunk, the Lord further looked like a mountain surrounded by water. Even as a mountain affords shelter to both animate and inanimate beings, the Lord is the resting place of the whole animate and inanimate creation. Even as a mountain is friendly to large serpents, the Lord is a friend of Shesha. The thousands of diadems that adorned the hoods of Shesha appeared like so many peaks of gold, while the diamond called Kaustubha shone on the bosom of the Lord like the gem emerging from the heart of a mountain. Brahmaji now had a clear view of Sri Hari, who wore round his neck a wreath of sylvan flowers that represented his glory and was graced by the Vedas that had taken the form of beasts to hymn his praises. He was inaccessible even to the sun, the moon, the air, the fire, and could hardly be approached, being closely guarded by his weapons. This is the general stuti of the Lord. Please remember that. Don't think suddenly from where the sun, moon, stars, and all have come. Right now, this is all unmanifested. Only Brahmaji is there. But Brahmaji is having this vision that the glory of the Lord is unfathomable. Even this sun, moon, and all of them can't approach him. Sun, moon, air, and fire. We also know the symbolism. Sun is the deciding deity of the eyes, moon of the mind, fire of the speech, air of the prana. Meaning he is incomprehensible through any of these. And he says, being closely guarded by his weapons like Sudarshana, who are truth, consciousness, and bliss personified. The Shankha, Chakra, Gada, they all are also Chaitanya Swarup, and they are continuously around the Lord. And here they are also called Sat, of the nature of Sat, Chit, and Anand, because they are born from the Lord. So so now it says that very moment, Brahma, the would-be creator of the world, who was intent on evolving the universe, beheld in his heart, along with the Lord, the lotus which had shot forth from his navel, the waters, the blast that was blowing the sky, as well as himself, and nothing other than these. So he saw in his heart all this. Dominated as he was by the quality of Rajas, he desired to undertake the work of evolving the creation. But when he saw only the aforesaid material for the same, he fixed his mind on the Lord, whose ways are unknown to anyone, and thus began to extol him, who is the only one deserving of praise, intent as he was on creation. So he saw only this. Brahmaji is there, water is there, lotus stalk is there, sky is there, air is there. And Bhagwan, of course, he had darshan of Bhagwan. Now, how to carry forward that creation? So he sings the stuti of the Lord. That stuti is the 9th chapter. This stuti of Brahmaji is very beautiful. Uh, each verse of it, whenever you can read, please read the Sanskrit and the translation also. Some of the verses we will take, but each of them are very beautiful. Brahma Uvacha ज्ञातोऽसि मेद्य सुचरि ज्ञातोऽसि मेद्य सुचिरानन्नुदेह भाजां न ज्ञायते भगवतो गतिरित्यवद्यम् नान्यत् त्वदस्ति भगवन्नपि तन्न शुद्धं माया गुणव्यतिकराद्य दुरुर्विभासि. So he says here that after a very long time, I have come to know you today. It is really shameful that living beings should fail to realize the true nature of the Lord. There is nothing other than you, and even that which appears to exist is not real. For when the equilibrium of the gunas of Maya is disturbed, it is you alone who appear as many. So this is Advaita. Then how the whole process of creation happens. Maya is the power of the Lord, and in Samya Avastha, then it gets disturbed by the Sankalpa, then the whole Srishti comes about. And it's so the Supreme Lord alone is appearing as all this, and one must worship that Lord. The Jivas who don't worship, so it is said here, the light of wisdom which is synonymous with joy, being ever manifest in you, the darkness of ignorance can never approach it. This form, which is the seed of hundreds of forthcoming avatars, and from the lotus sprung from whose navel I have emanated, has been assumed by you for the first time just in order to show your grace to the worshippers. Meaning, in that Supreme Lord, there is no Dvaita possible, there is no Avidya, there is no Maya, there is no creation possible. But if we see the creation, then it is only by the grace of Bhagavan. And it is for the compassion of the devotees that the Lord also takes this form. And this is the form for thousands of avatars as well as for Brahmaji himself to manifest. So he says, I do not regard your essence, which is purely blissful and undifferentiated and of the nature of unobscured effulgence, as something other than this form of yours. So now the form and the essence, they are one. Because many times we think form is only symbolic. The essence is real. And these are forms created by human beings. And blue color represents infinity, and then conch represents that Bhagwan gives a wake up call to the man, and then if the person doesn't strive and gets distracted, Bhagwan gives him one shot with his mace and brings him back to the track, and finally Bhagwan cuts away his ego with the Sudarshan Chakra and blesses that person with that Padma, which is the symbol of realization and complete detachment. See, symbolism may exist. Now, the Brahmaji himself says here that this form and this essence are one. So one should not think it is only a means, especially in bhakti. Bhakti, the bhavana for bhakti will increase only when there is complete shraddha that this is Bhagwan. That Supreme Lord who is infinite, who is beyond Maya, that Supreme Lord only is manifest in this form. Not that the form is symbolic, it will give us certain qualities of the mind, and then through that we will realize Bhagwan. So form is mithya. Form is not mithya. As long as this form is real, that form also is real. So now that Brahmaji himself said that, that is why I have taken refuge in this very form, which though creating the universe is yet beyond the universe and is the source of all the 5 elements and the 10 indriyas. See, Brahmaji himself is saying that. I have taken refuge in this form. And this form is the source of the whole universe and yet is beyond the universe. So it is both. Our linear thinking says form or formless. But Bhagwan exists in 3 states at the same time. As form also, as formless also, and as the truth which is beyond form and formless. At the same time, all the three exist. Like the dreamer, the dream character, and the waker, they all are the same. At the same time, all of them exist, though levels are different. I mean, that these three are examples not to equate to form, formless, and beyond formless, but I'm just saying as a analogy to understand. So we should not think that form is not real or form is just an intellectual support, or some people say crutch. It's a crutch. It is not a crutch. It is Bhagwan. No, no, no. How can one form be Bhagwan? Why not? The whole universe is Bhagwan. In that one form, Bhagwan can definitely take. You can worship any form you like. That is form of Bhagwan only. So Brahmaji takes the refuge of this specific form, and he says at the same time it is beyond and it is the source of all five elements and 10 indriyas. So whatever is visible through the five elements, whatever is made through the five elements, and whatever is perceptible and interact, we can interact with it with that five senses of knowledge, five senses of action. All that also is Bhagwan only. So in this one shloka, he has given all clarification about any doubt people have about form. And people still say pagan religion. We are the only pagan religion left out. Every other religion which is pagan has been destroyed. And people are hell bent on destroying this also. Anyway, the point is Brahmaji himself took the refuge of the form. Then what about any of the other jivas? It is for the good of your worshipper in me, O source of blessings to the world, that you have revealed this form of yours to me. Meaning it is for bhakta, it is for the glory of the, and it is for the benefit of the devotee that Bhagavan manifests in the form. Otherwise, we won't realize the absolute. So he says, I make obeisance again and again to you who are disregarded only by people that are addicted to the pleasure of the senses and thus deserve a place in hell. They are disregarded by people who are addicted to the senses because they believe only what they see. And he says that they definitely go to hell. They deserve a place in hell. This is not to condemn non-believers. This is to say that if one is attached to sense enjoyments, one will do any adharma also. If sense pleasure becomes the greatest goal of life, that I want to eat, drink, and be merry, that's all. I don't want more than that. What morality, what righteousness, who has seen what is happening after life? Live as one wants to live. YOLO, you only live once. Why live in self-control? Why follow so much morality, karma, this, that, nothing? Just do what you want. But law of karma is not going to spare. If one breaks law of karma, one will go into hell only. Hell meaning while living also agitation, selfishness, insecurity, sorrow, and afterlife also. Both. There is a fourth shloka. Tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalaya dhyane स्मनोदर्शितं च उपासकानां तस्मै नमो भगवते नु विधेम तुभ्यं यो नादृतो नरकभाग्य यो नादृतो नरकभाग्भिरसत्प्रसङ्गैः नरकभाग. Why asat prasangaihi? Because one is following that path of asat. So if somebody says that if one does not believe in Bhagavan and still does not break morality, will that person still go to hell? No. Law of karma will give accordingly the results. But the point to understand is only this. If I don't believe in God, in a higher purpose, chances are that I may live for I, me, and mine, and that selfishness will some point or the other make me indulgent and break morality. Then the hell will proceed. Then the hell will follow. If one is in between state, I don't believe in the Lord, but I'm not doing the negative karma. I'm trying to do as much as I can. One may not go to the hell after life, but one will be born again. That itself is hell. Punarjanma also is hell. We should not forget that. Because the pain one has to go into the next birth. Human body, if one gets, that is the best for realization. Some satkarma one has done, one will get human body. Then even to get that human body, 9 months one has to cook in that stomach, in the womb of the mother. That is hell. If one says no, one goes into plant life, animal life, any other, then that is further hell. Because how much one will live there in Ajnana? So the only solution is surrender to the Lord and destroy this evil. This is from Bhakti standpoint. So Brahmaji says, you have taken this form only for the benefit of the people. How strange it is. Bhagwan, out of his compassion, takes a form so that the jiva can surrender and drop the jiva bhav. And the jiva goes on negating that form of the Lord, saying God does not exist, form of the Lord is not real, and goes suffering. That he says in the next verse onwards, he says that. So he says, "O Lord, you never leave the lotus heart of your devotees who take in through the opening of their ears the fragrance of your lotus feet, wafted by the breeze of the Vedas. Your feet being held fast by the cords of supreme devotion." Very nice look again. This is. They are. See, the smell. Generally, we take in through the nose. Here it is said the fragrance one is taking through the ears. Because the glory of Bhagwan, one is hearing, one is doing satsang, and through that the Lord goes into their heart. And that's why that analogy is given. When one studies the Veda, the breeze of the Veda brings that delightful fragrance of the lotus feet of the Lord, and those are held fast. That breeze is not allowed to just pass away. It enters the ear, and the heart, which is filled with devotion, holds on to that breeze. So this is the glory of the Katha of Bhagwan also, and also the glory of devotion, that when we study the Veda or the scriptures or any other Purana, etc., the essence should be devotion to the Lord must arise. Otherwise, it is all intellectual information one is having. It doesn't lead to any evolution. So more of this Stuti of Brahmaji, we will continue. If you want to, as a homework, you read this chapter, the translation and everything, up to verse 44. Because this Stuti is very, very nice. And many beautiful points are there in this Stuti. Okay, so for today, we will stop here. Any questions? So we will have the arti.
मंगल आरती प्रिया प्रीतम की मंगल प्रीति रीति धूम की मंगल कांति हसनी दशयन की मंगल मुरली दीना धुन की मंगल आरती मंगल बणिक त्रिभंगी हरि की मंगल सेवा सब सहचर की मंगल सिर चंद्रिका मुकुट की मंगल छवि नयन में अटकी मंगल आरती अंग अंग की मंगल गौर श्याम रंग की मंगल अति कटि पियरे पट की मंगल चितमणि नागर नट की मंगल आरती मंगल शोभा कमल नयन की मंगल माधुरी मृदुल पैन की मंगल वृंदावन मद अटकी मंगल क्रीडन जमुना तट की मंगल आरती मंगल चरण अरुण तरुवन की मंगल करणी भगति हरिजन की मंगल जुगल प्रिया रावण की मंगल श्री राधा जीवन की मंगल आरती प्रिया प्रीतम की मंगल प्रीति रीति गोविंद की मंगल आरती मंगल आरती राधावर कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय। ओम न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चंद्र तारकम नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतोऽयम् अग्निः तमेव भान्तमनुभाति सर्वं तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति। सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की।
ओम पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।